For example, in my case, I spent one semester in Sweden, two in Germany, and then one in Switzerland. So it was a 4 semester program.
Program has a lot of specific details. Bring your attention glasses on and follow the instructions. Don't miss any of them.
In my program, it was about 10%. So 10% of the applications that went through in the preliminary stage actually were selected. Typically, they have very specific guidelines that in each interview will last for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and they don't exceed that.
Hi, welcome to Evolving Being. In today's session, we have a very special guest, Tanmay Singh. He has a very interesting background. So, he's done his Bachelor's of Science in Biology at Ashoka University. And more recently, he's come back from a tour of Europe where he went on the Erasmus Mundus program to study evolutionary biology. His interest areas lie in ecology, evolutionary implications of disease and climate change on wild and lab populations. And he's been trained in India, Sweden, Germany, and Switzerland. Now, outside of academia, he enjoys listening and playing Indian classical music along with keeping abreast on world affairs. So, a warm welcome to you, Tanmay.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So, in today's conversation, we are going to tap into your rich experience that you've had. And what we'll do is we'll break up the conversation into two segments. In part one, we'll look at questions around the Erasmus program, more in terms of the application process, your experience, the visa process, programs that you're eligible for, and things like that. And then the second part of the conversation, we'll jump into the deep dive into the countries that you've been to understand opportunities for students that may be interested in terms of popular universities, courses, life on campus, just living in Europe in general. And I'm sure you have a lot of do's and don'ts for students to keep in mind, given your own, whatever knickknacks and hassles you may have encountered. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah, sounds perfect. Yes, I'm ready and excited.
Okay, great. So then, I mean, in case I've missed anything in your introduction, would you like to add anything before we begin?
No, that covers me. I'm young. I'm just back from the program. I finished actually in August this year, and I'm back in India, so I'm very fresh from of the topics that we're going to talk about today. It's the right time to talk to me about this. That's all.
Great, amazing. So, how are you going to explain Erasmus to a layperson, someone that hasn't heard about this opportunity?
So, Erasmus Mundus fellowships or programs, they are part of several, prestigious fellowships. So people might have heard of, let's say, the Felix scholarships or the Commonwealth scholarships. But one specific kind of scholarship that is valid for Europe and several universities in Europe is called the Erasmus Mundus Fellowship or Scholarship. And the core component of these fellowships, regardless of whichever discipline they are in, is that there is mobility between European universities. So you have to mandatorily move from one university to another in a way that meets program guidelines. So if, for example, I did my program in evolutionary biology, there was a program consortium which decided what the trajectory for me would look like in 2 years. And as a student, I was supposed to go from one university to the other following that trajectory. And the best way in which you learn how different people around the world work is if you are in the university environments. So if you are being taught a subject with specialists across the world, there's nothing better. Um, there's
Yeah.
nothing better in that sense. So that's the highlights of these programs.
Yeah, it's very unique in the sense that you get to spend a certain amount of time in each country. Now, is that fixed that you spend 6 months in each country, or you it's flexible?
There's no set period. No, to answer your question, there isn't. It really depends on the requirements of your program. For example, in my case, I spent one semester in Sweden, two in Germany, and then one in Switzerland. So it was a 4 semester program, and my journey looked like this. But my batchmates, who were also in the same program, some of them didn't even go to Germany because there were other universities in the consortium that I didn't visit. They were not mandatory requirements of me. What was mandatory was that I start in Sweden.
So they created a pathway unique to you based on your context, and it may vary from individual to individual.
They create a pathway based on also certain program regulations. In my case, there were like a total of 6 universities that I could have gone to as part of the
Mm,
program, but meeting regulations meant that I could have followed my trajectory. So it really depends on the program.
got it. And what about the scholarship component?
So typically, these scholarships are 50,000 euros for 2 years. This is what was happening in my program, at least, and they cover housing, university fees, um, um, and any other kind of personal expenses. So you're given a stipend per month alongside your university fees. So there's the fellowship component and there's the scholarship component. In my program, these are not the same. So you can very well be part of the fellowship but not get the scholarship, because scholarship is reserved for a certain number of students.
It's a very unique program. I mean, not many universities offer that level of flexibility,
Yeah,
although most of them do have exchange programs, but this is very unique to you.
yeah,
What does the application process look like?
yeah. You have at least 2 rounds. The first is the preliminary application check, where you have to. So most of the programs I know of are at the master's level or at the PhD level. So you need to have the relevant prior degree qualification. So in my case, I needed to have my undergraduate degree either done, or if not done, then it should have finished by the time the master's program started. And
Yeah.
then you need to have letters of recommendation. Some programs demand 2 letters of recommendation, some demand 3, depending on, again, program requirements. You also need to have English proficiency, because all of these programs are English. So there are set minimums that you need to qualify either through the TOEFL exam or the IELTS exam. So I applied the preliminary round. I applied on 15th January. And then by early March or late February, early March, I received the call for interview. And then the interviews happen. So this is where the people who are the head of the program, the coordinating team of the program, they typically sit down and look at the shortlisted candidates and ask them specific questions, which are usually very relevant to the program ahead. So they want to really test if they're fit to join the program. And this is not just about how well you know, let us say, your undergraduate degree. It's also about whether you're ready for the interdisciplinary, environment that you will eventually see. So I know that I was asked a lot about, okay, how do you envision yourself fitting in an international environment, and why do you think this is important to you? Because the core component is mobility, right? So if you're not able to acclimatize yourself quickly, and you're not able to appreciate the relevance of this movement,
Mhm.
I mean, they are able to see this quite quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's 15th January. Then I had the interview on in late February, and by end of March, I think I received my acceptance letter. So
Okay. So roughly 2.5 months, maybe
yeah, it it
maximum three
it
months is
takes,
the timeline.
in some Erasmus programs, there is more than 2 rounds. It could also be um, that they want an in-person interview. There are many things that can happen. So my advice is, yes, the period is 2 and 2.5 months, but ideally look very, very carefully. And I mean this when I say very, very carefully, on the guidelines, of your program. So I was told that there's a specific format of submission during the preliminary check, and if you fail to meet that format, you're not even going to be looked at
Oh, wow.
as a candidate. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So do you know, I mean, like what percentage of students apply and what's this conversion ratio say? I'm guessing each round is an eliminating round, so only a few
So
students.
in my program, it was about 10%. So 10% of the applications that went through in the preliminary stage actually were selected.
I remember when I went on the Fulbright program, there were just 11 of us going for
Yeah.
masters to the US that year. And again, the numbers were very, very small. I mean, single digit, in the sense that it was.
But I
Uh,
think the small number, I mean, on a personal note, is useful because then you can bond very nicely with your batch.
just to zoom in on the interview process, how many panel members did you have and how long was that interview?
It was a rotating panel. My interview was an online interview, and I had two professors who were actually part of the universities where I would have gone, and they actually taught courses later on to some of my friends in the program, and also myself. And it's very personal. They will ask you questions about, as I said, your interest in the program and also your background. And this can last anywhere between, I would say, 10 to 30 minutes, depending on the candidate. Typically, they have very specific guidelines that in each interview will last for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and they don't exceed that. And they have very specific components to the interview. So in my case, it wasn't just a Q&A. It was actually that they wanted me to give a presentation of some previous research work that I had done. And that was very well timed. Like, it was, you couldn't exceed. They said you have 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes you have to present at maximum 5 slides.
In a nutshell, the program has a lot of specific details. Bring your attention glasses on and follow the instructions. Don't miss any of them. Okay, so the last question in this segment is what about, and I know this is a broad question, so feel free to answer it based on your individual context. Say, what happens to students who graduate after the Erasmus program? I mean, typically, what career trajectory have you seen, or if you want to zoom into yours, what is it that you intend to do?
So yeah, thank you for asking this question, because it's a thing that many of us grapple with as students also in the program. Um, Depending on, again, the scope and goal of your program, if it's very research oriented, you are trained for a PhD typically. So many Erasmus Mundus students who in a research oriented program, so let's say an MSc like mine, would be expected to be picked up by a PhD for labs for PhDs. Um, but there are a few that also transition into roles out of academia. But I say that in my case, the output is very centered to um, to research heavy roles. Yes.
And what is it you intend to do next now that you're back in India?
So I'm back in India. I just came back in September. I do still intend to be part of research environments and eventually pursue a PhD. Right now, I am taking a short break, before which I hope to join some research positions, projects, short term projects, which can give me a bit of a break from a full academic load, but still I'm in the research space. That's what I intend to do.